And then I started going out in Wakefield. Went to Wakefield Mecca, probably 4 times a week. Beatles in Wakefield, yeah, Cliff Richards. When my friend Stella loved Cliff Richards, and we went down to see him. He came on and she fainted, so she didn't see him. And then I used to go with girls from Normanton into Castleford. There were a dance hall in Castleford, and you had to get your aunt stamped if you wanted to go out, so that you could get home, and there was a special bus that you could get. Sometimes I didn't have my aunt stamped, so I had to get crouched down under chairs so that if conductor came up, you know, I were okay.
Used to go dancing to Baths because it was the swimming pool during the summer, and then they put a floor down for the dancers in there, and we used to jump like when they used to do St Bernard, and you would bang bang and sprung floor used to go like that. Yeah.
I mean, I prefer pubs to working men's clubs, always did. And especially in them days, if it was Salt Tetley Beer, I was a big fan of Tetley Beer. Black Swan, when Mick actually was the landlord, produced the best beer in the world, like, you know.
We used to go to Bath, and then we used to go to wrestling. They had wrestling. They used to cover Bath with a wooden thing. We used to have some good nights in Normanton, because there used to be across from Asda, there were like a line of shops, you know, at chemist is now, and there were a pie and pea shop there. I think it were Egan's pie and pea shop that only opened on a Friday night. I think it was probably Friday, Saturday, I can't really remember, but we used to go in there, and there were just long tables. You used to shop at front, they could buy tripe on a Tuesday, and then everybody was sat at long tables, you know, banging the knives and forks, waiting. How long's it going to be? How long is it going to be?
We used to go out you could go out on a Saturday, and you could visit 5 or 6 or 7, 8 different pubs if you wanted, or clubs. I mean, the working men's clubs were really strong. You go in on a Saturday night and they'd be full.
A lot of these clubs, bigger clubs, had turns on, so like the Woodhouse Hill Working Men's Club.
They did loads of different acts at the time, which started off on the club circuit, who became pretty famous. I mean, you're too young to remember the names, but there were like one band which became famous was Smokey, who sang Alice. Do you remember the song Alice?
Alice.
Alice.
When we were born, they took a working men's club over, because by that time I was a bit older, and they only had one night off. I had to do the bar stuff. There was one man, and he used to come to the bar and he'd say, "Give one of them and pint something." I say, "Pardon?" "Give one of them." What about the magic word? And I won't give it him till he said, "Please."
When I used to come in the 1970s, the club were full, and it was full of miners, people who built the club and made it what it was and changed things in the club to make it a better place. After the 70s and 80s, everything's not so good now. It's very rare you get people coming out through the week. Everything's changed.
People used to go out more, and that's pretty social.
But as kids, during summer, at local working men's club, there used to be a hole in the wall, and you used to be able to go get a jug of ale.
Yeah.
Cockleman.
He used to walk round pub with his little tray, like they did in pictures, but he'd have his cockles, his whelks,
His prawns. And you'd get a little bag in a little dish.
And then you'd say that cockles were off.
Cockles were off.
Then the horse and jockey and the cockle man used to come round, and he was coming in a van. He had a brown overall coat on, and he had a wicker basket, and in it he had jars full of pickled sea creatures. That's all I can say. Winkles and mussels and all these sort of things, you know, and people in pub used to go and purchase it off him. Some of them would eat it in pub, others would take them home.
So when the pub shut at 11 o'clock, you can go and get fish and chips.
Yeah.
It were called an ha'porth of chips.
You could get an ha'porth of chips.
Ha'porth of chips, and it were just a few chips in what we call it.
That's my godfather, Graham Blackest. Now he was a character. He had a fish shop round Lee Brig, and it were on George Street, and it were made of Wrigley tin, painted with tar and a wooden frame, and he had fish and chips there. And as a child I used to go round, stand in a pop crate and pull that device where you put tatey in and it splits them into your chips, and a bucket full. And for doing that for 2 or 3 times on a night, you used to get a piece of newspaper in a cone with a few chips stuck in it. But that was a great thing in them days.
Normanton was a very thriving town. Plenty of retail shops. You could nearly get anything within reason in Normanton. Furniture shops, all sorts of retails. There were banks. It was really a busy town, really.
I mean, we had Woolworths. I worked at Boots when I first left school, and there were Timothy White's, there were Heseltine's Chemist. There were Young's, that were like a department store.
Every high street had tailors shops. When I first left school in 1956, you could buy a suit for £5. Now you won't get a button for £5 now, would you?
Living in Altofts, if you wanted anything, most of what we wanted at that time was in Altofts. The one I remember walking down there to was Greenaway's shop, which is now the One Stop. And when Greenaway's had it, they had a parrot in there when I was a child, and when you went in it used to shout, "Shop!"